And when you are done with your presentation, you need to reflect and improve. Evaluate what worked well and what can be better. And like, what's the feel of the presentation? How was the timing? Did you feel relaxed or did you feel that you needed to rush? And like, write those down. Write those down. Don't just like sit down and think and then next time you're gonna forget all about it. Write that down and see, I did a presentation at this day. This is my takeaways. This is what how it works. This is how I think it's gonna be better. So that maybe you're gonna do another presentation in 2 months and you can go back like, what was I thinking after that presentation that I made?
It can also help you with other things, other presentations that don't necessarily have to do with this one. Like,
Yeah.
you may the feel is just like, how did how was it received? How does it feel? Does it feel confusing? Does it feel smooth? Do I even notice transitions? Like,
Yeah.
those kind of things are like, how does it feel? And that tells you, like, okay, how can I make this feel more engaging? Because everything that when you're watching something, you can see, like, hey, this is making me feel like if something changes suddenly, then it can pull your attention in, but it can also be something that, if put in the wrong place, can make you feel like, I don't know what's going on here, and so your attention starts to drift away. So you want to kind of see these things, and say, like, yeah, when I was actually doing it, this worked and this didn't work. How did it feel when I was presenting, and how did it feel for the audience listening?
Yeah.
How were they engaging, and how were you uh, able to deliver those points?
Yeah. And also ask yourself, like, did you cover the topic in breadth and depth that you wanted? And when you are gonna do the reflection, do that like the day off, or at least like the next day. Because if you want to think about it like in a month or two, you are gonna mostly forget about it. So
As soon as you have a break.
yes, as soon as you have a break, write it down. You can also record yourself. You don't even have to write anything. Record yourself and then just like make sure that you have the name of the file is accurate so that you can look back at it later and listen to yourself talk. And now that you have done your presentations, study the other talks. As you have studied the talks before, when you were preparing, you are also gonna study the talks that others are presenting with you. So again, as you did with your own talk, write down what worked, write down what you found interesting, what could be done better, what do you want to avoid, what do you want to apply. I even like sometimes when I go to presentations, I take notes on the color combinations. It's like, oh, that black with orange looks really good. I want to use that.
There are also some people who they have different interpretations, like color and things like that tend to be a little bit more tricky, mostly because, like, a lot of that, some of that is personal preference.
Yeah.
And 90% of people are going to agree on one particular thing, but also for any one person, 90% of what you say, 10% of what you say think is normal is also going to disagree with other people. Um, and that just happens because there's so many different uh, personalities and people, and what people like and what they don't, that the way that there's probably something abnormal about you, and there's but most of you is normal. It's just when you try to hit, it's like trying to have someone that is 100% average in everything. It just doesn't. This person becomes so plain and dull that it's hard to watch. And it's like it also doesn't feel like a real person because every person has something about them that is not normal. It's outside of the average. And these things, and some of that goes into like, how do I look at colors? Some people, they see green and then that really sticks out to them. Some people see blue and then it's like that's what really catches their attention. Some people red. Uh, you can make generalizations and say like most people will have red jump out at them and say like this needs your attention right now, but not all of them. Some people will say like that's what green does.
Yeah.
So you have to also kind of be aware. This is like being aware of like what other people do and what happens in your talk. So some of these things when you're changing, when you think I'm going to try this, you want to also see what other people do and how what they're doing. Hopefully the reason why you're looking at that is so you can see like what is standard to use, and those standard things come from a lot of the time just trial and error what they've done because they're gravitating toward what is uh, what is eye catching to the audience, what brings them in. Not always, but if you look, that's the idea of like studying other talks is that you can see like these commonalities, these common traits between them. They're the things that are bringing their attention to the the topic, or they're doing this for a reason. So if you see a lot of commonality between videos, hopefully there's a reason for it that they're doing it, not just that they are copying each other. But if you see a lot of presentations and they all have a common theme or a common element to them, it's a good, even if you don't know what it is or why that is, then there may be an actual reason why that's happening. And that's why you want to see, look at other ones and see what you can apply. Some of them might change it, and then you see that change, and then if they're mostly copying each other, and then you see one person who does something different, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that all these slides before were always doing like black on white, but now I see these ones in color, and I'm like, I like the color so much more.
Yeah.
I want to do the color from now on.
Yes.
And so then you get things like this, and that starts to become the more normal thing to do.
Yeah.
It used to be like 25 years ago when people gave slides, you would have a white slide and then text, black text. And it's like that's what you would do because that's what was normal. That's what you could do. It's not that it was okay, about 20 years ago they started to be able to add in graphics to make it better than just black on white, but that wasn't until much more, even once they got the ability, let me phrase that differently, even once they got the ability to put in these graphics, a lot of people didn't put in the graphics because they were just used to the black on white. And it's taken a long time for people to kind of adapt that and then get all of these things in here that make it more visually appealing. Um, but just because all of the other videos do it doesn't mean that it's a good thing. But you may have to ask, is there a reason why they're all doing this the same way? And if you see somebody else that does something differently, then you say like, this either looks good or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Or if it's neutral, is what is the pros and the cons of doing this thing?
Yeah.
Of making this change. And so like that goes into the what can you apply? What can you make better from what they did? What worked? Like these are the questions that are kind of like going to try to guide you in that direction.